Hi, welcome to Ketobiography, formerly known as Less of Me Success Stories. I am one of your co-hosts, Natalie Shamp. At Ketobiography, Robin and I aspire to share inspiring stories of healing. We illuminate personal journeys that demonstrate the life-changing power of the ketogenic lifestyle, empowering our listeners with wisdom while building a thriving community. Robin, please tell us who our guest is today.
Sure, Natalie. Sometimes the stars align and put the best people on our path. That's how I feel about today's guest. After a chance meeting at a conference in Denver, we became friends. Personally, I think meeting him changed my mission and opened opportunities I could never imagine. He operates Boundless Body LLC with his wife, Bethany. Together, they offer personal training, pain management, and nutrition coaching with a long list of specialties. While managing his business, he also finds the time to host a popular low-carb and fitness podcast, Boundless Body Radio, and still finds the time to help others like us launch our own shows. He's a talented interviewer, a patient coach, and an amazing friend. What an absolute honor it is to introduce Casey Ruff. Hi, Casey.
Hello. That was the kindest introduction ever. I am so absolutely honored to be here today. I'm also absolutely terrified. I feel like I'm talking to two Barbara Walters at once. You guys have a reputation in the podcasting world for hard-hitting journalistic interviews. So I don't know what's going to come out about my past, my criminal record, but I am absolutely honored to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. And I have to say, I feel the same way, Robin. We were sitting outside at Low Carb Denver, and I saw you and some of your friends eating chicken and guacamole and bacon, and just decided to say hello. And we got a chat, and we've become dear friends and have gone to many conferences together since then. And so I'm just very grateful for you and very grateful for your family and your story and all the people that you've inspired. So thank you so very much again for the kind words.
Well, I'm really glad that you've joined us. And I mean, had we not met, I'm not sure if you'd even have content for your show.
True.
So
this is a true story.
I'm shooting for most mentions. So
you are by far. I think you're mentioned more on my show than I am. And the whole reason I started a podcast was just to pump up my own tires. And I end up talking about you more than I talk about myself.
Well, so to return the favor, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can just talk about yourself for a little while and then just get it all out of your system so that when you record your own shows, you can go back to talking about me.
Finally, let's talk about me. Enough about you. Let's talk about me. I'm a supermodel. I'm super rich. I won the Super Bowl 7 or 8 times. No, I'm just kidding. My name's Casey. Obviously, I got into personal training in 2007. Was when I got hired by a gym after becoming certified in personal training. To me, at the time, I was studying architecture in college, and so I didn't think that personal training was going to be my career. It just a really fancy gym opened up down the street that I was training at in the off season for cycling, and I started watching the personal trainers and thought it was very interesting, the work that they were doing and the way they were communicating with clients looked really fun, and they were using heart rate technology, which I had been using for several years previous, and so I just thought like this would be a nice way to make some money during college and study architecture. And after a while, I just found that I really loved it and made it my career. And so I've done that for 18 years now. My kind of specialty, like I said, was working with heart rate monitors at the time. And so even though they had been trained in using heart rate monitors, when they brought me in on day one, I knew more about heart rate training and the operation of even just heart rate monitors than any of their staff. And so I kind of found my place there. Eventually I got trained into using what is called a metabolic cart, which is a way to measure somebody's metabolism by measuring their breath and their breathing. So essentially we could hook somebody up. We had 2 different versions of an assessment that we would do. So one would be a rested test. And so you would come in usually in the morning and you would lay down on like a comfortable kind of couch or recliner. We'd hook you up with a mask that had an umbilical tube that was attached to an analyzer attached to a computer. And we would just measure you for, 20, 30 minutes. You'd be down in there breathing. And we would come up with what we call your resting metabolic rate. which would be essentially like if we took the 20 minutes, how many calories you burn just to sit in a chair and do nothing, and we extrapolated that to 24 hours, we could give you an idea of how your baseline metabolism was operating. And we learned very early on, people that tended to do diets that were calorie restricted, or they were doing lots of exercise, especially cardio, like burning lots of calories or following the standard advice that everybody knew was true at the time, which was like calories in, calories out, meaning if you wanted to lose weight, which is most people's goals, you would eat less and you would move more and you'd end up losing a bunch of weight. We learned early on that if you did calorie restricted diets, you would typically make your metabolic rate be much lower than what it was supposed to be. So for example, like one year, probably back in 2009 or 2010, I measured the metabolism of a woman who is she had just gotten kicked off of the Biggest Loser contest, which is quite popular at the time. And according to her age, height, weight, and gender, her metabolic rate at rest should have been about 2,000 calories. And when we did the assessment on her, I had to run it twice, I remember, because it came back both times around 1,000 calories. So she had, through the contest, seemingly got decent results and lost like 60 pounds or whatever, but she had suppressed her own metabolic rate by half, by like 1,000 calories, meaning that for her to be alive, for her to just sit in a chair and breathe, she was already burning so few calories, which is why most of us know, like, you start a diet, you lose weight, and it eventually plateaus, you feel terrible, you're hungry all the time, your cravings go up, and then all of a sudden your weight goes up. So we learned that very early on, and we were also able to measure the difference between oxygen and carbon dioxide and how those two things exchanged in the body, which would tell us not only how many calories you burn, but where the calories come from. Do you burn your calories from fat? Do you burn your calories from carbohydrates or sugar, your two fuel sources, and what percentage each are you burning? And we didn't really know what to do very much with that information. So that would be one of the assessments. And then the other assessment that we could run on people was standardly known as like a VO2 max kind of a test, where we could set your heart rate zones, find out key metrics like your anaerobic threshold, your aerobic base, your VO2 max. And again, eventually, initially, excuse me, we didn't really know how to use that information very well. It was only later in my career that we learned that, in particular, like endurance athletes, for example, could keep themselves from bonking. Like if you've ever done like a really hard workout that went for a really long time and you didn't eat a lot before, or you weren't eating a lot of sugar during, if you went too long, like most people can relate to feeling like you just like completely run out of energy at some point. We call that an endurance sport, like bonking or hitting the wall. And it's simply when your body runs out of the teeny tiny amount of carbohydrate energy that it has available to it. Most people have enough for maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours of exercise, that you can use carbohydrate for before that runs out, depending on how intense you're going. And so we started to learn that if you could train your body to actually use fat, the fat that you already had stored up in your body, that you have, even if you're very lean and don't have a lot of fat, you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of calories of energy on the body that is ready to burn. If you could teach your body to run on that fuel source and not run on the carbohydrate, well, you could go much longer, more intensely, and never run out of energy, because again, you have tens of thousands of calories of that fat energy in the body at minimum. And the thing that prevents most people from burning that is the consumption of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, as we evolved, were, just exceedingly rare. Like you would maybe find them in a few places very seasonally for like a week or two or whatever before, the season for carbohydrates is off, and you'd have no way to use that as a fuel source. So the body learned how to switch back and forth between burning carbohydrates and you could get them, and burning fat when you couldn't. It's the way that we were able to stay alive. And so I found out back in like 2012 that where I was doing, long bike rides with my team, and you had to eat all the time consistently bananas and, the gel and the bottles of sugar water, and like your stomach would hurt the whole time because, it's trying to digest and also perform at the highest level, which makes really not a lot of sense. You would just suffer through that. And like you go on a 3-hour bike ride and halfway in, my whole team would stop at a gas station and you buy all the sugar crap there and cookies and Fig Newtons and Coke, which is super popular with cyclists for whatever reason. Like I learned that if I just started to introduce more fat into my diet, literally bring on the table things I thought were not good for you, like olive oil or avocados or whatever, like all of a sudden I could do these longer rides and never really run out of energy and be way less reliant on, the sugar water and the carbohydrates, which was awesome. It was great. It was great for my, cycling and racing career and really helped me have more energy as I was training my clients. And eventually you're in this world for long enough where you're embracing fat in the diet. And then I remember being introduced to a pair of personal trainers that were saying like, eat fat, get fit. And that was another like, wait, I thought this was like good for my cycling, but I still think this is not good for your heart. What are you talking about? They were eating lots of like animal fat, which I thought was weird. I remember being given a radio interview with Nina Teicholz back in 2014 when her book came out, The Big Fat Surprise. And I've said this before. I think I must have had some type of internal resistance to the idea that fat was good for you, because I was aware of Nina Teicholz. I was aware of her book, which again came out in 2014. But based on my Facebook timeline, I didn't start reading The Big Fat Surprise until 2016. So I think I had the idea in the back of my head, but also thought that like, oh, if this woman is right about fat being good, then I must be wrong about everything that I know about nutrition. So yeah, I eventually got certified not only as a personal trainer, but as a nutrition coach. I was managing that metabolic testing program in the clubs that we were managing, including one that's not far away from where Natalie lives that opened up while I was with the company, and I helped get them up to speed and taught the trainers how to do these assessments and interpret the results. And yeah, a combination of doing these metabolic tests over the years and then also doing hugely unsuccessful weight loss contests that our company would run. Our company would make tons of money by running. Initially, they were 90-day contests, and then they made so much money that they shortened them to 60-day contests so they could run them 4 times a year. So once a quarter, we had to, as trainers, go find cohorts of members to be signed up for these weight loss contests under us. And we were paid commissions and like forced to find a certain number of people to sign up. And it like, as a company, we were getting the number of participants that would sign up for the contest. And then regardless of whether they were successful or not, would actually like get on a scale to weigh out of the contest. The percentage compliance we were getting company-wide that I remember was like 15%, 15% of people would start the contest and actually like show up at the last day at the end of the contest. And they were getting crazy, your typical shopping lists with all kinds of obscure ingredients. And one woman called me from the grocery store one night. She's like crying in an aisle because she can't find arrowroot powder. You go and buy rutabagas and weird beets and all kinds of things that people don't know how to prepare. And it was horribly unsuccessful. Yet, again, the company made so much money. Every 3 months, we were super stressed out about trying to do the best we can to keep our, participants in line and having success. And then also thinking about the next cohort of people that we'd have to sign up for this stupid contest that was a disaster. And one year, it was 2018, I'll never forget, I had an employee that was signed up for the contest. He was describing his diet to me. And it was like, he was the kind of guy that wanted to lose like 25, 30 pounds. He used to be very athletic, wasn't anymore. He was waking up in the middle of the night to eat cold cereal because, his blood sugar was crashing all the time. And even then in 2018, I could recognize that he didn't have a lot of protein and fat in his diet, and he was eating a lot of carbohydrates, which at least I knew at that time was, something that could help. So I told him, hey, just eat more protein, eat more fat. I think that will really help you. Let's see how that goes. And after a few days, he came back to me and said, hey, I just lost like 3 pounds in 3 days. Like, what is keto? What is this keto stuff? And I'm like, well, according to my personal training manual, you should not have lost 3 pounds in 3 days. It's like impossible. But that's great, I guess. It must have just been water weight or something weird going on. But that sent me into the keto rabbit hole, and I've never gotten back out of it. And I don't listen to music in my car anymore. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. through keto, he ended up winning the weight loss contest by not following any of the advice that the company was giving him and not following the stupid workouts and food lists that they were giving him. He decided to do something different. And as trainers, we were recognized as having the guy that won the contest. And so that contest ended, and it was July of 2018. My wife was working for the same company, and we were, bitching and moaning on a Saturday about how we'd have to find a new cohort of people, and the next contest is about to start. And we just kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, this guy did really well doing keto. And there's only one club of this, this big corporation in our valley, which means we kind of are on an island a little bit. Like, nobody's on top of us making sure we're running, the exact program that they say we're supposed to run. Like, what if we just did this different thing? What if we go rogue and just teach people this keto thing, because it seemed to work really well for this guy? Like, maybe it'll work again, and maybe we could find keto meal plans, and maybe we could teach seminars and find other ways to educate our people. And so we did. We told people, like, ignore all the stuff the company sends you. That's trash. That's not going to work. We went to Diet Doctor and printed out meal plans and just said, like, look, find whatever meal plans and recipes that you enjoy. Don't count calories. Eat these until you're really full. If your family members don't want to do what you're doing, you can always take these meal plans, which were very reasonable. There was like salads and, like taco bowl. So basically, like, run tacos or burritos just without the tortilla. Like, if your family wants to do, these same meals, but have carbohydrates, like, make more carbohydrates. If they want rice and beans or tortillas, like, do that. That's fine. Add them to whatever you want. But just stick with these meal plans. Just find something that looks like this, or is this easy? And if you've ever been on Diet Doctor, they've got tons of different meal plans. They're all very simple. They don't require a lot of ingredients. And we would just give people that. And it was like, across the board, I would track people, their weigh-in statistics and their weigh-out statistics. We had a body fat scale, so we could actually measure not only how much weight they were losing, but how much fat they were losing. And I'm telling you, after running, we had completed, 6 of these cohorts before the shutdown, and we became unemployed. We were on our 7th kind of cohort of people that were doing this plan with us and tracking their weight and body fat percentage. Our compliance percentage was like 65% of people would weigh out that would actually start the contest. So it was way better. People were, like, more engaged. They were getting better results. And I remember I want to say it was just over 120. I want to say it was like 123 people that we had tracked from beginning to end of each one of these contests. The total weight loss was 730 pounds, 732 pounds, I believe. And the percentage of fat lost from that total weight was over 98%. So it was like 720 of the 732 pounds lost was recorded on a body fat scale as actual body fat lost. So however these people were moving and eating, I mean, we had men, we had women, we had old people, we had young people, we had people that wanted to gain weight, we had people that wanted to lose weight, we had people that signed up and they were doing yoga, we had people that were training for marathons, and other people that were just lifting weights. Like, it was this big cohort of random people, but to see that we were getting numbers like that was incredible. And all we were doing was giving them simple keto meal plans that didn't have a lot of carbohydrates. And we're just telling them, like, yeah, stuff yourself on pizza that has a meat crust and a lasagna that doesn't have noodles. And, like, it was amazing. And it made this stupid contest that wasn't working for anybody, that we were forced to do anyway, like, now it was fun and we loved it. And we always had winners in our cohort, and we would track people sometimes between the contests, and, like, they wouldn't even, like, gain the weight back whether they were off the plan or on the plan. So it made my career, like, so much more fun and enjoyable and engaging, and, like, people were getting results, and I was feeling amazing, and my wife was feeling amazing, and, like, your mental health is getting so much better. And, like, it was just such a fun time in my career to, like, find something different. So yeah, that kind of takes us to about, where you found carnivore diets or whatever, but I'll pause there since I've been talking a lot, and see if you guys have any questions.
You take like 30 minutes worth of stuff and put it into 5 minutes, because
I talk way too fast.
You just squeeze it. No, it's all good. So I'm actually just curious about what was going on with you and perhaps with Bethany at the same time, because you're not like it doesn't sound like you were necessarily like finding out about this way of eating. Basically, you're in it as it's happening, as it's being promoted, as people are starting to talk about it. So you're figuring it out on your own at the same time as a lot of other people, but you were applying it. You're in an interesting situation where you were applying it to others, as a trainer and as a nutritionist. So what was going on with you and perhaps Bethany as well in your evolution of eating? Were you doing it alongside them, or were you still in this frame of mind where, well, I'm a cyclist, I need to have the carbs and all of that?
Such a great question. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It was a slow learning for me. I'm a slow learner. So, it's like in 2012, learning that fat is okay and would help my endurance. And then 2016, learning that saturated fat may not necessarily cause heart attacks from reading Nina Teichel's. And then I mentioned I got certified as a nutrition coach in 2017, and that kind of pushed me back over to like balanced meals, mixed diets. Whole grains are good for you. You need to have the rainbow of vegetables. You're working with people on, meals and snacks and portion control and behaviors. We were coaching behaviors, which is this really kind of interesting way of keeping somebody locked into nutrition coaching for a long time. If you can convince somebody that it's their behaviors is the reason why that they're not getting good results, it's because they're not journaling about their food feelings, and they're not doing a good enough job portion controlling. Like, you need a palm size portion of protein at every meal, and you didn't get enough colors of the rainbow in your vegetables. Like, if you can keep somebody in that cycle, you just trap them into thinking that it's their fault that they're not getting great results. And that really re-indoctrinated me in that other way. And then, as soon as this one guy is getting really good results on keto, again, I wanted to learn everything about it. I actually remember a few months into the journey of I was eating keto. I was feeling pretty good. My body composition was good. I was less hungry, I remember. Like, I didn't need snacks between clients and granola bars and all this stuff. People around the club were starting to, like, I was starting to get a reputation. They called me Keto Casey for a while. And I was like, I just got certified as a nutrition coach. I want to be able to help everybody. I don't want to be known as this person, this guy that's promoting this, controversial diet, even though I felt like I knew enough about it at that point to think like it's not probably going to kill somebody. And I had a manager at the time that was like, no, you should just embrace this. Just be that guy and learn more about this and other people. And so I'm glad I took that decision. And I just remember thinking, like, I'm not going to know the most about this, but I'm going to dedicate myself to know more than anybody else, at least in this building. And so I just dove into the science and tried to learn as much as I could about it. And so at that point in 2018, when I was learning about it, I could say I was in keto, definitely still eating vegetables, but just like, like I'd done bulletproof coffee for a few years before that, but never really understanding that, it's this MCT oil is really, really great for your mental energy. And like, my endurance is so much better. Like I said, my weight control was better. My hunger was dropping out. So yeah, it was leaning towards keto at the time. And, Bethany and I had first started seeing each other. We were early in our relationships and we were much younger. So you could say that, it was tumultuous as we were getting started. We had a lot more fights and trying to figure things out and figure out how to live together. But I also think there was a huge component of mental health that we had not unlocked at the time that was something that came along later that helped us have a much better relationship, a much better communication. So again, I can't say that, it's all, your diet that causes things, but we would eat like, bags of gummy worms from Sprouts when we first got married, you know what I mean? And like, you would eat all this stuff. And so again, you transition to keto, you start feeling better. And it wasn't until a little bit later that we both kind of transitioned into the carnivore space. But yeah, it was fun to not only see what it was looking like for some of our clients and start to feel good and recommend that, but also to notice the benefit of my own life was pretty cool at that time. But again, that's kind of the first step on the way to carnivore where things really started to change.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. So let's go into that. So I know that you're a carnivore coach. You went through, I guess, what it was at that time called carnivorediet.com or whatever, and now it's part of Revero. So what made you decide to go in that direction into the carnivore space?
Great question. So ironic. It's gone through multiple different iterations. When I got certified in 2020, it was called Meat RX at the time. Right. And yeah, that was the first productive thing I did after the pandemic. And one of the first memories I have in the initial part of the pandemic. I have no memory or recollection of the first 2 weeks of the pandemic when we were put on unemployment and so much uncertainty, and yeah, couldn't figure anything out at the time. But anyway, once you're in the keto space for a while, eventually you're probably going to start to hear about this subset of people that are not only low carb, but they're no carb. And it was Joe Rogan. I was listening to a bit of Joe Rogan at the time. There was a doctor that came on. He was in his 50s, and he was saying that he only eats ribeyes. He'd never felt better. He looked really lean, and he was like doing deadlifts and winning competitions and doing rowing competitions. And I'm like, okay, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. This guy's definitely going to die. I got to the point in the conversation where this doctor said, I don't actually believe that blood work is very important and tells you all that much, especially if you're living in a certain way and eating only meat, because it's not based on that population. Blood work is based on general population. And that's the point that I turned off that conversation and said, okay, this is officially the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know what I mean? Like I never went back. It was years that I went back and listened to that episode again and listened to the whole thing. Eventually, I mean, ironically, I was working for his company as a carnivore coach before I even fully listened to the whole episode. But yeah, enough time passes and you start hearing more and more and more about people who are eating carnivore. They're taking super healthy vegetables completely out of their diet. And you're just like, well, what about fiber? Like, but you need the fiber. And I thought, spinach is really good for you. Like, where are you getting your vitamins and your minerals? And like, I remember thinking like, well, what about, I thought you got scurvy if you didn't have citrus fruit. Like, this is very strange. And, I remember following Paul Saladino at the time, and hearing about other carnivores and thinking like, wow, this is actually a thing. And the way they're explaining it, it weirdly kind of makes a little bit of sense. And so it was April of 2019. I just realized this week how foolish it was for me to start the diet on April 1st, April Fool's Day, because now every time that I go back and say it's my carniversary, like it sounds like an April Fool's joke. So now I always wait till April 2nd to say anything, because otherwise I feel like everybody thinks I'm probably just making stuff up. But I tried on April 1st a carnivore diet in 2019, and it was just the removal of vegetables at that point. I was, eating a very protein forward, fat heavy kind of a diet that had lots of meat already. And my first memory of how things are going, besides the digestive stuff that's like not great when you're first starting, there was a stressful situation that happened at work, and I had to refund somebody a bunch of sessions that they had paid for, which comes directly out of my paycheck. As a personal trainer, you're 100% commission. I had done a free session with this person and worked to get them scheduled, and now they wanted all their money back for whatever reason. And, that would have really pissed me off. That would have ruined my day or ruined my week or whatever. And I just remember being so calm and saying like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Let me get your money back. And if you ever need anything in the future, let me know. And, I don't recall remembering or noticing that at the time. It was maybe later in the day that was like, why didn't I freak out about that? Like, that's something that really would have set me off. And I noticed that I was just calm, and like there were things around me, like birds and, flowers blooming in the springtime, and the lake by my house, and like these little things that were always around me before, but now they were like really beautiful and peaceful. And like this anxiety about things that I would worry about that would never happen, that I just worry about things in the future, just kind of dropped out a little bit. And it was amazing. And I've been, carnivore for now 6 years, and noticed tons of benefits. Like my athlete's foot went away. I've not missed one single hour's session with one client. I've not missed a single session with a client in like 5 years since we started our business for any reason. Like I've not been sick. I never sunburn. My shoulder used to get injured all the time. I've not had a single shoulder injury in the time. Maybe all that's just coincidence, but to be able to, work out maybe 30 minutes a week and play hockey, fasted, and chase down 20-year-olds, and just feel awesome. Like there's so many different benefits, but I still argue to this day that the main reason why I stayed carnivore this time is like my mental health. My mental health is so much better. And anytime I go off, I make stupid decisions and I go off from time to time and I pay the price. I'll even just say, like, last weekend, it was rainy and cold and miserable here in the Salt Lake Valley. And I was like, I want a pizza. I'm going to eat a pizza. I know what this is going to do to me, and I'm going to order a pizza. I checked my account history. The last time I did this was February of 2023. So I'm generally like pretty strict on my diet. And I ordered, it's called the Mountain of Meat Pizza. So, you know, lots of meat, lots of animal products. And I ordered it. Bethany had a slice or two. I had 2, and then I had 3, and then I had 4. And then I'm looking at 2 more pieces, and I'm sick to my stomach. And I'm like, well, I don't want these to go to waste. I don't want them to be around tomorrow. I ate 2 more pieces until I felt like I was going to throw up. I played hockey this Monday, 2 days after eating this pizza, and I just don't have my edge. I'm not as sharp. I'm making stupid decisions, and people are beating me around the outside, which is not normal. And it's just like, this kind of sucks. I like being sharp and focused and, you know, on task. And I make idiotic human decisions like a lot of people do, and you pay the price. And like, yeah, okay, I'm going to fast for 2 days. And I did, and I got back on track, and it's fine. But yeah, once you feel so good, it's hard to want to go back. Like, Robin, you in particular, I think about your story of like learning that your cholesterol is sky high, and them featuring this in the amazing movie, The Cholesterol Code, that you were featured in. And it was like, you learned that you could bring in a sweet potato and your cholesterol would go right to normal. But people around you are saying like, Mom, you're kind of being a jerk again. You're being a little short. You're feeling tired. And you would cut it down and cut it down and cut it down to the point that you were a quarter of a sweet potato. That's nothing. If any of my clients said I'm carnivore and I have a quarter sweet potato every day, I'd be like, yeah, great. That's awesome. I'll throw you a parade. That sounds amazing. But it was still affecting your mental health. And you making the decision like, this is not worth it. It's not worth it to do this. I feel the same thing. Like, once you get to this spot, like, and you start feeling optimal, it's tempting to get off. But when you do and you're not as optimal, like, it kind of keeps you on task. And so carnivore diet has been amazing for me for many reasons. It makes me, you know, very motivated to stay on it. But again, the number one reason for me is mental health. My mental health is so much better when I'm on the diet.
I agree with you. It's funny that we as humans still want to play around with, I know how bad this is going to make me feel, but you know what? That taste is so much better, or at least I remember it being so much better. And then once you have all those feelings, you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. And to feel like just such a freaking crackhead again. And like, there's 2 pieces of pizza. I can't bring myself to just throw it away. You're already full and your stomach hurts. Like, nope, down the hatch. I'm gonna eat them. So dumb.
I remember being able to eat so much pizza that I was embarrassed. Like, I'm like, honey, I know that I've already eaten a half a pizza, but I'm just gonna go ahead and finish it because, like you said, we can't throw it away. That's a waste of money. So silly. But I do have a question going back to your shoulder that you talked about briefly. And also the fact that you and your wife, you guys tackle injuries for folks. I don't know what that's called, but you focus in and help people, fix some injuries.
Look, when my knee was hurting, I wanted Bethany's to put her feet on me so bad, but I've never met her and I've never been to Salt Lake City, but I just know there's something about her putting her feet on people that makes the injuries go away. So I do want to hear about this too. Keep going. Sorry.
Oh, I like feet on my body. That sounds kind of weird, but yes. So it's a 2-part question. It is, one, when you start working with someone with injuries, do you tackle the inflammation first? Do you try to talk to them about their diet and then start with maybe some physical therapy type exercises? Or do you just tackle the injury and don't go into that with them if they're not, maybe they're not interested?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Natalie, this is the kind of thing I was talking about with hard-hitting journalism. We just learned about your personal preferences and feet, you know what I mean? So this is the truth comes out. That is an excellent question. I don't blame you for not knowing the name of it. It is extremely esoteric, this practice. And I can talk to people that have been into bodywork for a long time and tell them the name of it. And very rarely does anybody know what the hell that it is. So the name for the specific kind of practice that she does originally is called Rossiter. And it's most similar to something called Rolfing. More people have heard of Rolfing, where a practitioner is putting their hand on you in a certain place and you're moving through like a series of stretches. I've never had it done. I've just heard about it. And that's, I think, the most similar thing that what most people can relate to. One of the difficult things with Rolfing is it can be very difficult on the practitioner as they're using their hands, in particular, maybe their thumbs and fingers, to do the work all day on people. Can be really hard on the practitioner's body. And yeah, Beth's like 5'3" and 130 pounds. So like not the best for her to be working with that. So basically, the way Rossiter works is in a similar way, but people are laying down and she's using a series of stands and using poles to kind of keep balance, and is applying her foot in a certain way, in a certain place on your body, applying as much pressure as the person wants. So the person's always in charge. Different to like massage, where you're just taking whatever pressure the massage therapist wants to give you. You don't have a say really in that. With Rossiter, you absolutely have a say in how much pressure you take, and you're basically like, if she pins your shoulder and you're moving and doing stretching, what you're doing is opening up fascial tissue. And in the space that she works, which is just in our basement downstairs, we have posters on the wall, frame posters that show how like your right hand is connected all the way through your body to your left hand all the way across, how literally the top of your head and your tongue are connected through deep lines down to your toes. And so that's your fascial tissue. That's almost like the kind of the white part of an orange that's holding everything kind of together. And so a lot of times, like somebody with shoulder pain, they might need work on the shoulder, or they might need work in their opposite hip. That's where the problem's coming from. They need that opened up. So that's what Rossiter is. So your question was related to diet. We are always wanting to have that conversation with people, and we always try to bring it up. It's not something that most people are really open to hearing unless they're kind of in the keto carnivore space or have already heard of that and bought into that. I'll give you an example. I did a consult on a woman who was having like frozen shoulder, and she was in a lot of pain. She's done 2 sessions with Bethany, and after seeing Bethany for like 2 sessions, she's already like 95% better, and has brought her husband in and is like referring people. She's gotten amazing results. And in our consultation, I remember asking her like, hey, like what things in your diet do you want to talk about? Are you willing to change? And I could see she's fairly healthy, and she was like, yeah, my diet's fine, not a lot of inflammation. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, you might think you're eating healthy, but I would be curious if there was like oxalates and you're eating, these crystals that are building up in particular in joints. Again, it's just weird. Like in a 30-minute consultation, when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, not many people want me to tell them like, oh, you should stop eating spinach. You know what I mean? Like people already think that's like the best thing for them. Once we like build rapport with somebody and kind of sneak things in and talk about the obvious things like sugar, one thing we'll kind of say is like, imagine taking a bowl and mixing in sugar and water together and then rubbing your hands together and feeling like your hands would be sticky. If you did the same thing with like flour and water, you're in your hands, you rub your hands around there, they'd be like gummy and like kind of stuck together. And if you did the same thing with like oil and water, your hands would be slippery and slick. And that's the same kind of thing. Like if you're eating fat, you're mixing it with protein, your joints, your body's going to be lubricated and feel a lot better. We'll have, talking points like that and try to work with people as far as whatever they want to do for diet. But yeah, if somebody is open to it and open to having that conversation, I think the food that people eat has a huge implication as far as like how their body's feeling and injuries and things like that. And again, it's surprising. People, might be surprised to learn that the thing that's causing the problems is not just the sugar. It's not just the flour. That's part of it for sure. And all the processed food and seed oils, but also things that they think are healthy, the almonds, the beets, the spinach that has all this oxalate. Like that's something your body can't handle, and your body will accumulate over time. And yeah, it might be better to take those things out if you're experiencing a lot of injuries, which sounds, again, really weird to a lot of people, but it's definitely something that we believe in. So great question, Natalie.
I'm going to ask for 2 definitions from you. And one of them is going to be define oxalate, in case people don't know. And the other one is going to be define carnivore.
Okay. Ooh, great question. Certainly not an expert in oxalate. I would refer anybody to the work of Sally K. Norton or Monique Ottinger, who both are oxalate researchers and do an amazing job. Oxalate, as I understand it, is a compound that's used by plants to protect itself, protect plants. To best illustrate this, the example I give that most people can understand is in your head, go to the fridge and grab that bag of spinach that you have and grab a leaf or 2, put it in your mouth and start chewing it. You can probably relate to how your mouth feels. There's a certain mouth feel that you have when you eat spinach. And Natalie just made a face that perfectly describes it. It's like kind of like gritty, like there's a sharpness or like a grit to it. And I'll explain to people like, okay, what you're experiencing is eating oxalate crystals. So this is the mechanical crystal structure of a plant that protects it from predation. Plants don't care about you. Like, you know, we have a person in our field who said plants are trying to kill you. Which I understand, but I also think like, no, it's a little entitled. Plants are not trying to kill you. They're trying to protect themselves. Plants don't want to get eaten. And so it's not humans really that plants care about. It's insects and rodents and all these things that over millions and millions of years have evolved together in an arms race of how to, you know, plants protect themselves and how animals get around it to be able to digest certain plants. And so these crystals are, again, mechanical. If you looked at them at a microscope, they would look like toothpicks and literal crystals. And like, that's again, the mechanical part of oxalate. And that's just tell people like, that's just eating glass. You're just eating glass or sandpaper or crystals. That's, you know, probably going to tear things up. If you've got leaky gut or Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, that may be part of it because you're eating so many things that are tearing up the inside of your digestive system. Ironically, that's not even like the worst part of oxalate. Oxalate also comes in an ion form, which based on its charge will seek a mineral to chelate, essentially. So it's basically like an acid. And unfortunately, this acid gets into the body much easier, and then it goes and seeks out minerals. So commonly, it'll find things like calcium, it will find bones and, you know, the eyes, and any which way that you can excrete oxalate, excrete anything actually, like excrete through your eyes, through your mouth, through your nose, through the digestive system, is a way that your body will want to get rid of this oxalate that's accumulating, and your body has no use for it, so it's got to get rid of it. So people end up, you know, having problems with, you know, the buildup of oxalate and also the removal of oxalate. Like if people go from like a vegan diet to all of a sudden go to a carnivore diet, they're in for a world of hurt, and it's not recommended to do that because their body is finally going to say like, great, we have all this oxalate, let's get rid of it. And people have these crazy dumping issues. And I just think like, I think there's a lot of problems that we attribute to other things, or people think is just aging, or the thyroid is having problems. Like that's probably oxalate related. I wonder about even things like cancer and breast cancer. There's, you know, some research in that field as well. I think oxalate can be a big problem for a lot of people. So, and the good news is for a lot of people, you can find swaps. Like I'll tell people like spinach is the one food. I'll just say like, don't eat spinach. Like, first of all, it's gross. Like just everybody knows spinach is gross. Don't eat it. Eat kale, eat any other lettuce that you want. Don't eat spinach. It's not worth it. It's just got so much oxalate in it. And you know, again, the dark chocolate, the almonds, the chard, the beets, all those things have a lot of oxalate in them that can cause a lot of problems. So anyway, that's the oxalate story.
Well, before we move on to carnivore definition, because that was a great answer. I 2 things I want to point out is one, that Sally Norton walked on stage barefoot and said, keto is trying to kill you. Not plants are trying to kill you, keto, because all of the all of the foods when you first start the keto diet are very high in oxalate. Everybody switches to almonds. Everybody switches to spinach. All of that stuff happens. So I just found that fascinating. I actually never got to meet her, but she just seems like an incredible human being. But I also want to mention, and I know you've had him on several times, Dr. Bill Schindler, because he has an incredible story about the oxalate coming out of his eyes. And it's almost horrific, but I mean, it was an educational experience for him because he's a very natural. He likes to eat from the earth and, thinking that these plants are going to be fine. And it turns out that it was building up in his system. And so I would just wanted to recommend that people seek that out, that interview out, because he does discuss it. So now on to definition of carnivore.
Yeah. And before I do, yes, Bill Schindler would be the first person to tell you that he credits Sally Norton for his own health. He'd already been working in nutrition for a long time, but realizing that almonds and spinach were not that great for him was a huge learning and really helped him out. And yeah, Sally Norton, 2013 at KetoCon, on stage, barefoot, telling keto's trying to kill you and talking trash about all the vendors that we know were at KetoCon. Just on the other side of the wall, guess who didn't get invited back to Hack Your Health 2024 was Sally Norton. Weird. Yeah, she did an amazing job, and she is a sweetheart. I was lucky to meet her at that conference. She's just such a kind person. And then, yeah, carnivore. I like the definition. I've always liked the definition of carnivore that we use in nature when we say that a hypercarnivore eats about, in nature, any animal eats 70 to 75% of their calories or greater from animal products is considered a hypercarnivore. I like that definition. Now, whether people can tolerate other things on a carnivore diet, we know there's like versions of carnivore diet. Like some people eat strictly meat. Some people eat what we call like a lion diet, which is strictly beef, salt, water. Some people eat the version of carnivore that's like BBBE, so butter, bacon, eggs, beef, and eggs. I don't really care too much to get into the sticks of all of that. I was always kind of bummed out when I would like post something myself or see somebody post something where they had like, 8 burger patties they ordered from In-N-Out Burger, but they had ordered them like animal style or with some onions, and they post them to a carnivore page, and people are like, oh, onion isn't carnivore. Like, really? It's not? Thank you. I had no idea an onion didn't come from a cow. Appreciate it. Or like, the sliver of avocado that some people see and they freak out, oh, it's not carnivore. Like, give me a break. Like, the goal of carnivore, in my opinion, is to heal, not just weight loss and fat loss, but also to heal something. And proteins and fats in nature always come together. And so, yeah, again, whether somebody is eating exclusively meat or just mostly animal products, that's the definition of carnivore that I really enjoy. I do think that people should, if they really want to heal, they should try a period of a stricter version of carnivore for a time. I don't think everybody needs to do it. And I don't think everybody needs to do it forever, but to take, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever, and just try to be really strict and then start to bring things in slowly, I think is a really good way for somebody to determine whether they're having reactions from things that they didn't think before. Like, if you really want to feel optimal, I do recommend that. But as far as the definition, I like the hypercarnivore definition where I just don't have to worry. Did you have a little bit of honey and that was fine for you? Great. Did you have an apple last Tuesday? Great. Like, I ate pizza that had a real crust and I felt terrible, but I still consider myself a carnivore. So that's the definition I like.
I love it. That was maybe a baited question because I just wanted you to validate my own thoughts on the subject. I was interviewed one time and the question was, what level carnivore are you? And then I just kind of went on a tirade of how that's just not even a valid question. So yes, it's the ultimate elimination diet, but do we all have to be beef and salt and water only carnivores? No, absolutely not. We can have a wide range of healing in a wide range of ways. And if we haven't learned anything from the past 40 years of dietary advice is that there's no one size fits all diet for everyone. And that includes carnivore. Thank you.
Did you answer like, well, I'm level 84. I'm really working to get up past like 87, 88. I get the bonus points, you know?
You know, if I did something like play D&D or something and knew about like how the dice works or something, maybe I'd be able to answer that question better.
Nice.
But I don't play, so I don't know how it works. So yeah, I was just like, no, I'm just going to shut this down right now. I don't think there are different
Good
levels. I think everybody seeks the healing that they need in the way that they need to. So
yeah, good for you.
It was just a weird, like to me, it was just a weird question, but I guess that's something that happens out there in the world, is that we have to have levels. And I'm better than you because I'm a level 185, and you, I'm sorry, you're just a level 82, and so I've got 100 on you. So
yeah, it reminds me of playing Mario on Nintendo with my buddies growing up, like World 4.
Yeah, right, exactly. It just irritated me. So I baited you with that question because I
appreciate that
myself. Yeah. I do want to change the subject. So before I do that, Natalie, I want to check in with you to see if you have any questions.
I do have one other question that it ties into nutrition. I apologize. My dogs are barking so bad. You did say that you got some training. You went through the Rivero training. Do you find yourself doing continuing education somewhere along the line? And if you do, just to keep updated on maybe some things that are going on, if you do, where do you find that training? How do you keep up on what's going on so you can give the best information to your clients?
That's an excellent question. Yeah, really good question. So I again, like unemployed, I had nothing to do. So I took the Rivero certification just to, you know, cover my bases. At the time, they also offered a coaching platform. So anybody could go onto MeetRx and see a list of carnivore coaches around the world. And they could hire you to do like 30-minute sessions at the time. And the pay was terrible. Like it was awful pay, but again, we were unemployed. I had nothing going on. And so, you know, somebody in Timbuktu or Dubai or Ireland could hire me for $18 for a 30-minute session, which is way less than what I charge. I would make $12 of that. So you just don't make very much, but it was fun because I got to meet tons of people from all over the world and help them along, and people could book me. So it was just, I always went back and forth on like whether this is worth the money or not. It was just fun. I had a good time with it and kept coaching until they shut that down. I think they had some type of legal or liability type problem where they couldn't, some coaches were probably goofing stuff up and not giving the right advice or whatever. So they ended up shutting it down, which I was kind of bummed about. Again, there was not a driver of, you know, financial anything for me. You make like $30 a month or $40 a month if people hired you. But I had a good time with it. But continuing education, it's a good question. I always keep up with my nutrition coaching certification. It's one of these big textbooks behind me that I have to brush up on and make sure that I'm answering the questions in the way that I know they want the questions answered to maintain my nutrition coaching certification. My personal training certifications are kind of lifetime certifications. They don't need to be redone. So I don't worry about that. And in literally my 18-year career, nobody has not one time ever said like, oh, can I see your certification? And I have a ton of them. Nobody ever asks about them, and I don't do it for that reason. There are amazing continuing education platforms out there like the Nutrition Network, the SMHP. You can take online courses from them. There's others, Paleo and Primal. And if there's other like carnivore coaching certifications out there these days, I'm not quite sure, but there's a lot of things that you can sign up for. And every few months, I'll think about the idea. I'll maybe get on the website and see what pricing is like. But like some of these courses to get certified are several $1,000s, which frankly, I think is worth it for all the benefits that you can get. But at the same time, I also have the really fun advantage of like, I've got the podcast. And so like, I have access, you know, I've gotten to get access with some of these people that I can talk to them today. Like, you know, I built a relationship with Dr. Chafee, and I can call him a friend. And if I message him today and say, yo, dude, like come back on the show and let me ask you what you think about carnivore today, I have the ability to do that. And so I think of continuing education as like, I'm trying to stay up on, listening to other podcasts, listening to other people in the field, what they're talking about. My vacations are going to conferences. Like, I don't go very often to Mexico or the beach or whatever. Like, I go to conferences. That's where I spend my money on. That's where I spend my time at. And so, yeah, like I'm seeing the latest research from people that are all over the world and meeting them and then getting the advantage of talking to them. So I don't necessarily feel like I need to invest tons of money into more continuing education right now, currently, presently. Although I'd never argue against it, and I would say it's absolutely worth it for people out there that want to get this stuff. But as far as continuing education, I'm in a unique place where I am getting a lot of great information from people that are out there doing the work right now, and lucky that I get to talk to them.
Yeah, that's the route that I'm taking is taking all these classes. Yes, they're expensive, and yes, they take a lot of time. But just to have some backing in what I want to do, I think is important. But yeah, agreed. You're going to the conferences. That is in fact continuing education. Talking to the people is in fact continuing education. Do you have to pay for the letters behind your name? No, you've got your other things. You're successful in what you're doing. So and I don't know, does your boss require you to have continuing education, or
Bethany is really tough. The board of directors here at Boundless Body is just really really challenging, and yeah, it's a high pressure gig, and so yeah, it's a lot of standards for sure.
Yeah, I figured as much. So I want to make sure you stay in the course so you're not getting in trouble with the boss.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Robin. Thank you.
Since we're talking about Boundless Body, I want to give you the opportunity. So what I end up doing is when I talk to people and they're like, I need to talk to a trainer, and they know that I work out, so they have questions, and I'm like, I got the guy for you, and I always send them to you. So I would like you to just take a moment to talk about what Boundless Body, your business, not the podcast, what you focus on and what you do.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And I always appreciate all the, kind referrals. Natalie and I have been working together in the last few weeks. I'm having just the best time. And, she's pretty miserable. She cusses a lot, but I still would like to think she's having an okay time as well.
She may say a little bit of a wordy word while we're having a conversation, and it makes Matt just appear out of nowhere. So he's never heard her actually say anything else.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. That explains a lot for sure. Boundless Body. Being unemployed for a few months in the spring of 2020, kind of realizing like our club was going to open back up and we didn't have clients anymore. People were not coming back to the gym, and we were going to get thrown back to the wolves of 100% commission in a completely different world where the rules had changed. This was a kind of gym where, high-end people who are working at this business complex, making lots of money, were coming in, and they had the means to, hire trainers. Was a really great situation until 2020 happened and all the rules changed. And so we realized we probably would need to pivot, and, probably not great. The two personal trainers marry each other. You're not really like diversifying the financial income very well. We both lost our jobs. So we decided, maybe we could start our own company. Bethany came up with the name Boundless Body. I loved it immediately. We got a logo made. I made our website. A few months later, I'd always wanted to do a podcast. I love podcasting. Natalie, to your question, like that's the other thing is like so much of this information is out there in podcast form that like Robin is doing absolutely the right thing by getting a certification and spending the money, but also a lot of this information is democratized and anybody could listen to podcasts and get the same information as well. So both are options. But anyway, with Boundless Body, we built out our basement to be a gym facility and a Pilates studio. We've got a reformer. Bethany is comprehensive Pilates certified. We're both personal trainers. I do nutrition coaching as well. She does the Rossiter system. It helps people out of pain. It's cool because when I worked at the gym, you have this structure and system and these things you could do and couldn't do. And the realization of like working for yourself, we don't have any rules. Like we can run things the way that we want. And the downside of that, let me tell you, like to have a weekday in the wintertime when people are on vacation or people are sick, and you've got a weekday, like a Tuesday weekday, and you have like 2 clients that day, that's not great. That's where like you realize like, holy smokes, like if I'm not making money and seeing people, I'm not making money. Like I have a weekday where, okay, I guess I'll go on a walk. It's not like I can go around and like, you know, sell door-to-door personal training. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into owning your own business, a lot of free things that we offer and do for people that may or may not materialize into business. But also the flip side of that is we get to work with people however we want. So I do have clients all over the world. I've got clients in New Zealand, in Dubai, in, you know, Chicago, and, you know, Natalie and I have been working together for a few weeks. She's in Sacramento. We work through Zoom. I can train people through Zoom. We can nutrition coach through Zoom, and it works quite well. Like, people need, you know, a few bands or whatever equipment they have, and we can be very flexible and work with people. We see people in person. Obviously, Bethany's work is mostly in person. She's got to work on them, although she can do virtual sessions and help teach people things that they can do on their own. But yeah, the number of, you know, gym facilities and unfinished basements and garages and, you know, warehouse facilities, whatever, parks, trees, monkey bars, like the number of, you know, places I can see people, it's really quite interesting. I never thought you could personal train somebody on the banister of their stairs, but COVID happens, you got to figure stuff out. And so we see people however we need to. We have no set programs or plans. We just work with people however they want and charge for our time. And, you know, it's been 5 years and we haven't gone out of business yet. And so it's been really fun and really enjoyed it. And yeah, definitely like learning as we go. And, you know, you do the accounting and taxes and marketing and, you know, the production of a podcast and a YouTube channel. Robin, you know what all that stuff is like to try to like work through. Natalie, you as well. Like you're just, you know, going with it and learning as you go, but it's been really fun. And yeah, we've really enjoyed kind of doing our own thing and yeah, all the pros and cons that come along with it.
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. I don't
Well
believe. And I do want to just kind of reiterate that you've not monetized your podcast either. So, you know, you're building this business and your business is the physical work that you do. The podcast is just a nice little side thing that you've kept, you know, you've kept from anybody interfering with maybe what their advertisement might suggest. You know, you've kept it kind of.
Thank you for noticing. I mean, to you two, I'll ask the question, like, don't you guys think that podcast ads are getting like absolutely insufferable?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was looking at Nairi's low carbon fasting. We interviewed her not too long ago. So I was looking at hers and it was like all these Ozempic ads in front of hers. And she's all about healthy diabetes treatments. And, you know, her start, but that was on YouTube. It wasn't on the version, but still it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, you don't have any control over it. That's just what they throw out there, and they know you're talking about diabetes, so obviously we're going to put an Ozempic ad on in front of it. So it just, yeah, it is definitely out of hand, and it's a lot of work that I don't think anybody realizes how much work goes on in the background on a podcast. And so the fact that you've kept that going, and it's, you know, it's so popular and so informative, as well as traveling to continue your education, having all of your clients playing hockey, cycling, going for hikes, like you've seemed to have been able to find this really good balance for your life and still be able to, both of you can be part of this business and sustained. It's very impressive to watch. I'm not sure how you do it, but I'm impressed with it.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of building the plane as we fly, but I always kind of thought, like you, like that this is kind of my passion project. I want to be able to hopefully have good enough business that I can pay for this. You know, I pay for, you know, my editing platforms and my hosting platforms, and, you know, it takes the time to research and do the interviews and then edit things, put all the show notes together. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, I've got a call to action after every episode that says book a free consultation. I've gotten lots of clients off of that. So that's part of what I consider like marketing, but also, you know, to have a reason to chat with both of you and, you know, to meet these amazing people. And like I can go to
sit at a table and eat lunch with a couple of weirdos.
Oh, it's the best. It's just awesome. Like it's so fun. And then, you know, I get to hug Sally Norton and Nina Teicholz. And like, it's just, yeah, it's been a really fun journey, and it's something I'm really grateful that I've been able to do, for sure.
Yeah, and we're grateful that you've done it as well, and that you've kept with it, because
Thank
you're
you.
a go-to listen for, I think for both of us. Yeah, you're a go-to listen for us.
Well, thank you.
I do want to change the subject, and I want to be conscious of your time, because I think we're going over. I forgot to set my timer, so I have no idea how long we've been talking. So just start yelling at me if you got to go. But I want to change the subject. We're in an interesting position. That all three of us have seen the Cholesterol Code documentary. And although we're not allowed to talk about too much about it, I just thought maybe we could talk a little bit about thoughts on the documentary.
Very kind message from Carolyn. Thank you very much. Boy, Cholesterol Code. If you are familiar with Jen Eisenhart, be sure, if you're not familiar with it, be sure to look up Fat Fiction. But so tough. So that movie made its premiere at a conference that I was attending, Low Carb Denver 2020, on March, was it 12th? Like March 12th, 2020. So like you're watching this movie, and Jen Eisenhart, the movie maker, is like, hey, we're going to screen this movie in movie theaters all across the country. Like, nope, you're not. No, you're not. It's 2020. The world's falling apart. There's a pandemic about to start. So unfortunately for them, they didn't get the best start on that movie, but she did an incredible job with the movie. It's very, very well done. Has a great experiment with CGMs, and features Brian Lenskis and Doug Reynolds and all kinds of amazing people in our field. To see that she did this movie, Cholesterol Code, featuring the work of Dave Feldman, featuring Robin and her family, people that are dealing with mental health, and understanding this issue of some subset of people on keto carnivore diets, when they drop their carbohydrates to be very low to heal themselves, see and observe that their cholesterol goes to stratospheric levels that would concern anybody out there, should concern anybody, should concern most doctors. That a data scientist was curious enough about this to chase this problem down, to literally walk away from his career, to start pursuing the truth in cholesterol and have an alternate model, and be hosted on shows like, I'll just mention, like Peter Attia. He shows up on Peter Attia, and Peter Attia tries to tear him to shreds. One of the worst episodes of podcast I've ever seen. And like over the years, his work has done more and more good, and has looked more and more correct than ever, and it's amazing. And so for Jen to put this together into a very entertaining, easy to watch, super heartfelt, kind of a documentary. You see type 1 diabetics, you see people with mental health issues, you see, just again, to watch that moment, Robin, of your daughter, like, you just feel your insides get torn out when it's like, what memories do you have of your mom? And she's like, to be honest, not many. She's on the couch watching life go by, and I wanted her to play with me, and she's in bed. It's like gutting. But to also see like the storyline of now you're building a relationship, to get to meet her in person and know you and Matt and how this has affected you. And I'm telling you, one of the most meaningful moments is not only asking you the question of you being what is called a lean mass hyperresponder, where you're walking around having completely resolved bipolar, but you have cholesterol that's super high, to ask Matt. It's just one of the moments that I'm podcasting that stands out more than ever. Like, this is your wife, the person you care the most about. You can do whatever the hell you want with your diet. You now have a wife who is walking around with these super high, levels of cholesterol. How do you feel? How do you respond to that? And his answer of like, well, she can do whatever she wants. She's her own person, but I would not trade one day of getting to experience this version of Robin and having her be present. And it's just so joyous. Like, if I had one day of this, that would mean more than having 10 years of what life was like in the past. It's such a interesting issue in our space. And I'm so glad that, not only Dave is doing this work and is literally crowdfunding these studies with our money, the money that he's getting from, people that are in our space that are curious about this, but also Jen and her side of things, to tell the story in a way that is entertaining, engaging, informative. It's just, I don't know, it's really special. So cool that you got to be a part of it. And I'll be curious to hear what Natalie thought about it, having just watched it.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. What I liked about this was you could feel everybody's emotions coming out through the screen. You could see in Dave's eyes how much this means to him. And not because he gave up a career, because he really believes in what he's researched, what he's the outcome of it all. Your story, Robin, of course, stole the show. But and Laura, your daughter, also, and Matt, even though he thinks he's just a little extra, he was very special. Every one of you was very special in the film. The way they presented everyone's story, it fit. It was exactly where they needed to be, the sections of the story. And I don't know how they do it with a camera, but I literally felt like I was walking beside some of these folks because the emotion was very well presented by every person. And it was really fun because I was like, I know that person. I've talked to that person. Like, it made me feel like, yeah, they have come a long way, and darn it, they need to be, their story needs to be told. And I'm so happy that it's being told in a way where you can actually feel it. And that I felt. I cried. I will say to anyone who's going to watch this, which I know everybody will, just bring a couple of tissues because you don't know when it's going to hit you.
Well, I certainly didn't intend for that to be Robin, you're amazing, but I'll take it. No, I'm just kidding.
This conversation was supposed to be Casey's amazing, not Robin's amazing. What are we
It is supposed to
doing?
be Casey's amazing. You took it there. I'm just asking about a film.
What am I doing?
But so just to say, as the time of this recording, the film is not available yet. But I'm trying to remember, is it cholesterolcodemovie.com? You can go for more information. Yeah, so definitely go there, and you can actually sign up to find out when there's going to be a release, and hopefully there'll be a release in your area to see it in theaters, and you can see my family on the big screen. Which is
can I
cool.
ask Natalie, can I ask you one more question? Can you pretend for a minute that you didn't know Robin, you didn't know Robin's family? Would that moment of like her daughter appearing in the show, would that still be as poignant if you didn't know them personally? Would that still be like one of the like cornerstone moments of the movie?
Even though I knew from prior talks with folks that was said, I didn't know what context it was, right? And so absolutely, if I wouldn't have known, because it makes you go, it sucks the oxygen out of the room. Yeah.
And she doesn't see it like she's like, no, that wasn't that. And actually she felt like she was hurting my feelings. So she feels really bad about it. So that's been like, I missed the after party for the most part because she and I were in the bathroom processing that precise statement. So the fact that it hit her so hard, I guess is translated to everybody else who watches it as that moment. But it's certainly a much different feeling for her, but I'm proud of her for having said it.
I am too. It was interesting to be in the Uber ride after we left and to hear her say, like, you could tell she felt bad. She really felt bad, and like trying to tell her, like, now that you kind of made the movie, like that's a hard moment for sure, but that's what I mean, that stuck out a lot, and she was very brave to be able to do that, and you guys were all very brave to share your stories, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So really just cannot wait for that to be public. I hope it gets picked up by a big platform. The quality of it is certainly up to that standard. So if nothing else, I just hope it starts a lot of conversations.
And I would tell Laura, if I was talking to her, that I can understand how she feels. I mean, I think that's a super valid way to feel, that, oh my God, my mom's finally, we're having a new relationship and now I've made her feel bad. Maybe it's a little scary to walk on some eggshells because of your prior history, but no, you're explaining your feelings at that time. And really, what you're saying is how I looked at it was, I'm glad I don't have that person anymore. I have this new person who's learning to live as a whole new human, and I get to be a part of that, and I'm so lucky. That's what I would say to Laura.
And she knows that. So we do have that conversation, and she defends it. So like if something's happening in school or whatever, she'll be like, no, there's another way. And so she gets pushback from people because they're like, there's no way, but yeah, it's still hard. I know that every time she sees it, or when other people see it that might say something to her, I think it's just going to hit her hard. But it's part of her process too. And it was an important part of her process. And, by no means did I force her to participate. She willingly participated in the filming. And I just don't know that she realized how big her part was going to be, because it's bigger than me sharing my story, for sure. So I just want to take a moment to talk about it, because it is interesting that there's three of us sitting together that have seen the film, and we can promote it a little bit because it's going to be great, and I cannot wait for it to come out. Casey, I have like a list of questions still, and they were all like fitness related, which I think is going to have to be part 2 at some point, because we've run through time despite your fast, you're very fast talking. So Natalie, you have one more question, and then I have one more question.
Well, I don't really have a question. I have more of a statement. So what I would like to say is Casey and I have made a deal. If he can make me look like G.I. Jane, we're going to shave Natalie's head to look like G.I. Jane. And honestly, right now, I would just really invite that. I'm kind of sick of this wig I'm wearing.
You know what I want to say, Natalie? Instead of him flying to Sacramento to shave your head, I think we should all go to Salt Lake City. Okay. We should have Bethany put feet all over us, and then we can have a head shaving party.
That sounds lovely. We have to be very careful in this community. We're talking about, causes and associations, and we don't necessarily know what causes one thing versus another thing. So my argument is maybe G.I. Jane looks the way she does because she shaved her head first, then she looked the way that she did. So again, is this correlated? Is it the cause? We don't really know, but we could try an N of 1 experiment in, the spirit of Dave Feldman and amazing research, and we shave the head first, then the other physical results come. So we'll see.
Well,
correlation versus causation. We got to try it out.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll do a GoFundMe first and see how far we get.
Anyway. I'm donating.
Okay. Okay. Well, Casey, this has just been so much fun. And at the end of the show, we ask all of our guests the same questions. But before Robin asks you that question, where can people find you, or where do you want them to find you?
I have had the best time with you guys. Thank you so very much for all the amazing questions. And thank you so much for not digging too much into my criminal background or getting too much dirt into me. I'm sure that will happen in part 2. But for now, very grateful for both of you. This has been a great conversation. The easiest place is just our website, myboundlessbody.com. You can find all our social media stuff there. You can find the podcast there. Anything about us there, but the main thing is like a book now button that people can click and schedule a 30-minute assessment that we can just chat. I like to say that in our 30 minutes, we try not to make it sales pitchy or anything. We try to just give you as much information as we possibly can in 30 minutes. So yeah, anybody can go to our website. That's the easiest place to find us is myboundlessbody.com. Again, you'll find the YouTube is in the podcast there, but you can also search Boundless Body Radio on any of your favorite podcasting episodes. We just released episode 799, so 800 comes out next week at the time of this recording. But yeah, website is the easiest, www.myboundlessbody.com.
So the last time I was on, this is not the last question. The last time I was on your show, you asked me who my favorite podcast guest was. And I was mad at you because I said, I'm not going to answer that question. But then I did say that I was going to ask you when you came on who your favorite podcast guest has been. So here you are on the spot with who has been your favorite podcast guest?
No hesitation at this point. Matt Dobbins. No hesitation.
Yeah,
Of course, Matt.
You already mentioned him, so I figured that was going to
Totally.
be he went over. Go ahead.
In all seriousness, like, I love the episode. It's one of my favorites, and that moment was a moment that really stood out, that I got to ask him that question. And it's just so awesome to talk to. It's so awesome to talk to Nina Teicholz and Sally Norton and, you know, Sean Baker and all these amazing people. But also, I've loved having just everyday people and trying to catch different angles of stories. Like last year, I got to talk to Brian Lenskis, which was amazing, and I also got to talk to his wife, who doesn't really go on podcasts, and hear her perspective of the journey. And like, I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, Matt Dobbins hands down takes the award. You get a close second. If Natalie ever comes on, maybe she'll be up there in the running. We'll see.
Well, I think that's great. And honestly, that conversation is a Boundless Body radio exclusive, because that did not make the cut into the film. So if you want to hear
This is true.
Matt answered that particular question, you have to listen to his episode. So let us close this thing out with our guest. We ask a question at the end of every show. So we love to hear everybody's answers, because I feel like they vary so much and that they're very informative for people. So what key insight can you share to help others write their keto biography?
That's a lovely question. When you first hear keto, start seeing keto in the grocery stores and on Slim Fast shakes are branded keto, and you see this thing and like it feels like a fad. It just seems and looks and feels like a fad, and you have this idea that like people are melting sticks of butter and drinking them. People are eating piles of bacon, which like literally I know nobody who does that. Like I eat butter and bacon, but you can't live on butter and bacon. Like you're not gonna shove a bunch of fat down your face. You can't live on that. Like anyway, it feels like a fad. It feels like this weird trend in diets, a counterculture kind of a thing. I wish people would understand the being in ketosis is your human birthright that we have evolved with. And you can't believe everything you hear when you first hear about this, that people are like losing fat effortlessly. They are, they're not taking naps anymore. Their energy is much higher. They're sleeping less, but they're not tired. They're intermittent fasting, and then their Crohn's went away, or Robin reversed her bipolar, or, like it just sounds so fantastical and like scammy and snake oily. And I would want somebody to understand that the keto diet is one way you can get into ketosis, but ketosis is your birthright and it's your natural state. It is the state you should be spending most of your time in. And if you don't know what it's like, you'll eat the pizza and you'll just think it's normal to feel like crap. And once you've had the sharp edge of knowing what keto feels like, you'll eat the pizza, you'll pay a heavy price, and you will beg to get back onto a ketogenic diet, whatever that looks like for people. As Cholesterol Code said, you can be plant-based and be in ketosis, but being in ketosis means you're burning fat for energy and using ketones for energy. And it's just, you're really missing out if you're not trying this. It is your human birthright. It is God, universe, whatever you want to say, is like, this is your natural state. And until you get here, you have no idea what you're missing out on. It might seem weird to think that you're going to one day not eat bread and not eat cookies. I'm telling you, there will be a day if you try this, those things will not appeal to you anymore, and you'll feel amazing, and you'll wish you'd started it sooner. So I guess that's the insight I would kind of give.
That is incredibly powerful. So I really appreciate that answer. And speaking of appreciation, I appreciate you joining us today as a guest. It's been lovely, as always, to have a conversation with you. And like I said, there's like so much more I had on my list of things to ask you. So we're going to have to do a follow-up that is less story about you. We gave you your turn. So then we're going to have to move on to let's find out some more health and fitness questions, because you are a wealth of knowledge, and that we need to put that out there as well. So no more gloating about yourself. And in the next time you come, it's going to be that. That's when those hard hitting questions are going to come into play. So yeah, we'll take a little break from it. We'll, rest, regroup, but we'll come back to it with the hard stuff the next time.
I'll prepare myself mentally for that. Thanks for the hour and a half of, again, pumping my tires. My self-esteem will come crashing back down after this, surely, but it's been nice.
You should play hockey or go for a ride or something right now while you're still all jazzed up.
That's the best way to get brought back down. Your hockey buds are savage. They will tear you to absolute shreds and put you right in your place. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about your Bad Bunny friends. So
it's like 3 feet away from me.
The Bad Bunny. He's got to make an appearance.
Maybe we'll leave that as a cliffhanger for next.
That's for next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Love it.
So, on behalf of Natalie Champ, Casey Ruff, and myself, thank you so much for hearing our keto biography. Bye.